Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Ted Turner. Success leaves clues, kids. I just named 5 of the greatest names in business in the last 150 years. And they all have one thing in common. They're ball busters. They're hard as nails. Where does that leave you? I still work 50, 60 hours a week. And I haven't had to work in 35 years. You're not willing to do anything. You're not willing to sacrifice anything to be a high-performance person.
I don't want to be like that.
No, most people don't.
I want to be liked.
Yeah, well, see, you want to fit in. I'm the only speaker that you're ever going to hear that really, with all his heart, doesn't give a shit. If I leave here you liking me, I did something wrong.
Be the kind of trader who sees the big picture. The world is changing around you. Global threats push gold, the safe haven asset, to higher prices each and every day. Now's your chance to start trading gold. Just go to capex.com and register to get up to a $5,000 bonus on your first deposit. Simply use GOLD5000 as a promo code and you're good to go. Capex.com proudly welcomes you to the next level trading experience. Register now and start taking full advantage of the new gold rush. Terms and conditions apply. Exposure to gold obtained via contracts for difference, which are leveraged products and incur a high level of risk. Capex.com is operated by JME Financial Services, Pty Ltd, an authorized financial services provider.
Getting your business funded is a lengthy process with the banks, and it can take weeks before getting an answer. ProfitFX works with the best in the finance industry to bring you an unrivaled business funding solution for South African businesses. Our funding partners have funded millions in the last year in support of growing your business and our economy. Get in touch with your talk show host to request more information. A trade history of 3 years or more and an annual turnover of 1 million rand or more is required. Terms and conditions apply.
The champ is here! 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 The champ is here!
Good afternoon and welcome to Bull Market Stock Show. This is your host Rian Hobson, and we're doing today the unemployment statistics that came out of South Africa at around 11:30. It came out, where Stats SA report the unemployment rate of South Africa. Now, estimations had it on 33.5%. The consensus had it at 33.4%. And then the unemployment rate came out at 30.8%. Now, it's a bit lower than was a bit estimated. So it's slightly better because they did expect the worst number. Well, I myself expected a terrible number for today, but it came out at 30.8. Now, it's still the highest unemployment number ever recorded in South Africa. And it is actually a disaster if you look at the stats. Now, there's approximately about 11 million people without jobs. 11 million. And so which means you must be very careful when you look at unemployment. And I'm sure I did discuss this on the show. Because you have to look at job seekers, because that is what they calculate on, and then people that totally gave up, or the discouraged workers. So that number they normally don't calculate in, which is now the discouraged number. The people that just don't apply for a job. So it's very difficult to actually to calculate them, and that's why they don't calculate those people in, and that's why it makes it difficult to make a calculation regarding like that. So obviously the numbers came out at 30.8, which is a terrible number. It's the highest unemployment number ever recorded in South Africa, and obviously if we can look now at the discouraged workers, we can add more numbers in there, and we can look definitely not at your 40% region. We can look at 45 to 50%. If you need to take the discouraged workers in, because you must remember at the unemployment rate that was about 28 there around, they already estimate that discouraged workers were sitting at 40%, between 40 and 2%. So obviously now that it's 30%, we can look at 45 to 50% or even higher. Because the problem is also the youth unemployment that is a big concern. Youth unemployment, that is now people that apply for a job. That sits at about 61%. Currently at 61%, which is extremely high for a country of for South Africa. Look, not just for South Africa, for any country. It is an embarrassment to have an unemployment rate so high. And what obviously, which for me is always the big story, is that when you have your unemployment rate so high, and if you look at South African labor laws, South Africa's labor laws is actually the strongest labor laws in the world. Strongest labor laws in the world. So it just shows you clearly, the data suggests that clearly, that the stronger your labor laws, the higher your unemployment rate. It is not even a brainer. And obviously where this whole rot started is actually back into, I think it was 2018, where they started to introduce the minimum wage. So with the minimum wage, you can see exactly from the point where they introduced minimum wage, the unemployment rate started to go up. Now, why they did it, they tried to give people more money, and that is where the unemployment rate started to increase drastically. And from there on, it just got worse and worse and worse. Now, obviously, we have to obviously they will blame the lockdown and all this nonsense, but this problem is coming on before the actual lockdown. And with the unemployment rate now sitting at 30%, and obviously we extended the lockdown extension to level 1 to December, I think for December 15. It's very difficult to see South Africa getting out of this mess very quickly. We need some drastic, not money, we need some drastic changes, structural reform. That is what we need in South Africa. And first, you need to start at the top. President needs to go. The whole entire political party needs to go. Look, it is just a mess what the ANC created over the last 20 years. It's an embarrassment, actually, for the world. And I mean, South Africa was this beacon of hope for Africa. But look where we are today, sitting with a record number unemployment and youth unemployment that is actually extremely, extremely dangerous, and it just shows the vulnerability of the youth of today. This is not good numbers at all. Although it actually is below what is being estimated, but it's still the highest unemployment rate ever. And everybody had hope for Cyril Ramaphosa when he came into office, but that is definitely not the case. Things are not looking good in the country. The Eskom is a mess, which is our power supply, which is a state-owned company. Basically, all state-owned companies is actually bankrupt. Post office, Eskom, the railway service, the municipalities, everything is an absolute mess to provide service to the people so that the economy can grow. So if we don't have that problem, if we don't sort out that problem at municipal levels, basic stuff, supply electricity, sort out the water shortage in the country, fix the leak taps and all of those things. If we don't sort out that nonsense, I don't see actually how South Africa is going to come out quickly out of this dark depression that we are currently in. And people are actually basically in denial by not saying that South Africa is actually in a depression. This is actually a depression that South Africa is going through. And this is definitely not a recession with 11 million people, job seekers that are looking for a job. It's a massive number for a population that is only 60 million people in South Africa. It's crazy. I will just take a short break and then I will come back with some more information regarding the unemployment rate.
The champ is here! 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 The champ.
Look, I'm exhausted. Had it all figured out and I lost it. They say that's the cost, but it just feels like a lot. Stop, are you going or not? I miss certainty. Miss the 9 to 5s, knowing exactly where I need to be and why I'm not built for this. Progress moves in slow motion. They're out making money and getting promotions, saying all the right things, pulling all the right levers while I sit here, write my future self love letters. Who's winning? Is this the end or beginning? 'Cause I'm starting to feel like reality's slipping, and bank accounts, they aren't very forgiving, and life on edge feels like falling, not living. If effort brings victory, what am I missing? Nothing good comes easy. When we have to, we push through, not knowing completely. You're here because you're made for this next level, taking these places that most people won't. Start embracing it. Who cares what they do? They're not you. You'll go through more now than you think you're supposed to, but that shows you can cope with the highs and the lows, because you rose to be more. Could've run away, could've avoided the thorns, could've been comfortable. Blood, sweat, and tears, they're expendable. No more pretending, man, build something memorable. Don't drink from their cup or by stories they tell, because when all their time's up, you'll have dug your own well. You didn't use lifelines, you're topped off for a lifetime, so drop all those one-liners. We'll get them next time. No, this time is your time, and whatever you decide will end up being real life. No stop signs, just storylines. This whole thing is a misunderstanding, a miscalculation. Jumped and missed the landing. I'm mystified, I can waste so much time. These ovations are strictly imagination, not standing. So much for planning, guess fate left without me. Those failure statistics, yeah, they'll be about me. Was overly optimistic, forgot the logistics. Guess we all learn sometime, don't we? Good is not good enough. No, how long do I stay down before I let go? I buried my pride and took it inside, but never enough. It takes a toll, it gets old getting told you've got miles of road left to go. You're alone with this future unknown. Just go home. Just go home, it's safe there. Yeah, I'll find some embrace there. Look, it's time to admit defeat. A humble retreat, check the box and complete to my core. Intrinsically, it's not for me, I can't do this. I knew this is how it would be. No fame, no fortune, no names on marquees. Just running in place every day on repeat. This is the world I wanna see, where everything's taken with no guarantees. No. Come on, man, pick your head off. Go back inside, half a life's learning to get up. How can I make you see that you have everything you need, and what you want to be is never out of reach? Fate deceives sometimes, but destiny's calling, so can't let the phone ring. You know there's no all-knowing. Go level up, no letdowns. Let the world in, push fear out. It's self-belief, it starts right now. When hell freezes, you lay down. Until then, it's your town, it's your story, it's your crown. Live in the clouds, feet on the ground. They stand still, you run around. Go mesmerize, or they socialize. There's dollar signs to be maximized. If you live it right, regret nothing. Loud applause, the sweetest sounding. This moment won't happen again, and never becomes forever unless you choose to begin. So see greatness in each step, and power in progress. Your future, yeah, that's limitless, it's infinite. Don't forget you want this.
Getting your business funded is a lengthy process with the banks, and it can take weeks before getting an answer. ProfitFX works with the best in the finance industry to bring you an unrivaled business funding solution for South African businesses. Our funding partners have funded millions in the last year in support of growing your business and our economy. Get in touch with your talk show host to request more information. A trade history of 3 years or more and an annual turnover of 1 million rand or more is required. Terms and conditions apply.
Be the kind of trader who sees the big picture. The world is changing around you. Global threats push gold, the safe haven asset, to higher prices each and every day. Now's your chance to start trading gold. Just go to capex.com and register to get up to a $5,000 bonus on your first deposit. Simply use GOLD5000 as a promo code and you're good to go. Capex.com proudly welcomes you to the next level trading experience. Register now and start taking full advantage of the new gold rush. Terms and conditions apply. Exposure to gold obtained via contracts for difference, which are leveraged products and incur a high level of risk. Capex.com is operated by JME Financial Services, Pty Ltd, an authorized financial services provider.
The champ is here! 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 The champ is here!
Good afternoon and welcome to Bull Market Stock Show. This is your host Rian Hobson, and we're doing the unemployment rate of South Africa. That was actually released at 11:30 earlier today, which shows that South Africa's unemployment actually went up from 23%. Obviously, that was based on a definition. So it was 23%. It went up to 30.8%, and the rand actually currently is strengthening against the US dollar. Now, the reason why the rand is strengthening is because it actually beat the forecast. The forecast was about 33.5%, and it came out 30.8%. So it was better than was forecast. We all expected a terrible number, but it came out to about 30.8%. Now, there is obviously a lot of question marks regarding this number, but due to the definition and all of those things, so you have to take in consideration people that apply for a job and all of those things. There's surely a lot of people that actually gave up on actually looking for a job, and that's why the number is actually lower. That is what I can see about this number. Is that people totally gave up on looking for a job, and you know that time is limited. You have to look for a job in the first few months or first few weeks, and then you are actually going in as unemployed. But if you just don't apply for a job, then you are obviously go into the cycle of discouraged workers, and that's why you are not calculated in the actual unemployment figure. Now that's why the unemployment figure came out at 30.8%. But the whole story is that the unemployment rate is actually obviously it's based on a calculation of the definition of unemployment rate. But what I'm more concerned on is the discouraged number and also the youth unemployment. That is the two things that I'm actually more worried about. Excuse me. And the problem is, it is not a foreign problem. Everything is domestically. The ANC is totally ruined this economy. That there is no question regarding this problem. The problem is the ANC. That is where the problem is. The ANC is the biggest problem, and obviously the policy, which is also a big concern. One is the minimum wages. Two is affirmative action. Three is the BEE problem, where you have to come to South Africa if you want to start a business, then you have to get a BEE partner. That totally push investors away, because where the hell do you still need to go look for a BEE partner, person of color, that you first need to employ? It sounds good, these policies, but it's unrealistic. There is too many red tape that goes in when you need to start a business in South Africa. It is a madhouse that goes on. You have to get the equity right, the color you have to get right. You have to have certain amount of black people in. You have to have certain amount of white people in, and it needs to be based on the demographic of South Africa, because obviously 80% of the people in South Africa is black. You have, and then you have you can say about 90% of people in South Africa is black, if I include now colored people and also Indian people in. And then you have a small portion of people that are basically white. So you have to select your criteria at your workplace regarding the demographics in South Africa. Obviously, that is a problem. Obviously, it sounds good, but in reality, that is actually the problem. Because you need to employ people based on their skills and their experience. But now you can't, because you have to now look for a certain race. And the other problem is also the problem of female and male. Because now we have this big roar up as well, that you need to employ a certain amount of female based on demographics, and also other amount of male. And obviously female is more than men. So you need to employ more female. And the government is in the forefront of the story of about 60% of females that are serving the government. Now, I'm not want to make the story bad, but if you look at the output of data, of the output of government, it is a disaster. Over 70% of people in government is black. 60% is women. And look at the statistics. Government is a disaster. Whether it's on municipal level, whether it's providing water, whether it's providing tar roads, whether it's providing electricity, whether it's home affairs, everything is a disaster. Military galore is a disaster. Now that gives a bad image to black people. It gives a bad image to women. It's not that women are incapable of doing the job, But because you're working at government and you want to go to the private sector, the first question they're going to ask, what the hell did you do in government? Because look how terrible the government is performing. And now this nonsense of the government that putting certain amount of race in and certain amount of female in is just putting a dark cloud over females' ability to work and over black people's ability to work. Now it looks like the whole entire black race is stupid, or the whole entire female gender is stupid, which is not the case. But because the government is picking all the rotten apples into the strategic organs of government, now the mess looks so severe that you're putting this whole image forward that black people and female are terrible. That is actually what the government is doing. Now this story is not new. Even during the apartheid era, it was exactly the same. You have a whole bunch of white people into the state organs as well. The apartheid government went bankrupt. Totally bankrupt. Now everybody will say, no, it's the sanctions and all. Look, I did some research there. There's nothing to do with the bloody sanctions. It has nothing to do with sanctions. You must just go check the data correctly. The South African economy was still moving. The problem was the wage bills was too heavy. The wage bill was too heavy. The debt was too heavy. And the economy did not grow as fast as it can to cover that wage bill. But you can't employ so many people on the state bill. Of course, the whole thing will blow up. And then on top of that, you need to give those people medical aids. You need to give them houses. You literally spoon feed the people in government. What do you expect? You will create a lazy bugger in government. And that is what we are facing today. The services that we get from government is an absolute disaster. Absolute disaster. And now we're sitting with a massive unemployment rate. We don't get foreign investors. And in fact, this arrogant bastard of a finance minister that we got in South Africa, which is Tito Mboweni, he actually told the World Bank, hey, listen, I don't need your money because you want to determine policy. Beggars can't be choosers. You ruined the whole entire South African economy. And now someone is saying, listen, I'm going to borrow your money, but based on these conditions. You says no. Fine enough. I'm actually glad that he said no. I'm actually glad that the World Bank is not giving South Africa money, because we all know what is actually the government's policy in South Africa, and that is stealing money. That's it. Stealing money, that's it for South Africa. They've been looting government left, right, and center. Billions and billions of rands are actually getting missing every single year. Listen, if you're still voting for the ANC, you must be out of your bloody mind. Honestly, you must be out of your bloody mind. Because the other day I was listening to a radio station where they actually say, because they have some by-elections that goes on, especially in the middle of South Africa or in the inland of South Africa, where raw sewage is actually moving down the streets because they can't treat the water plants, nothing. They don't have a waste management sector, nothing. Or it is there, but it's just not functioning. It's an absolute disaster what is going on in South Africa. And this economy is definitely in a depression. You can't be in denial. This is not a recession. There is a hardcore depression that we are facing in. Some person was saying, we're smelling a revolution. Look, I will not be surprised. But I will just take a short break. And then I will come back to you with some more information. But what I do pick up in Mozambique is something that might happen in South Africa. But this is the tip of the iceberg, what happened in Mozambique. Because I saw the same story in Libya. I saw the same story in Kenya. The same story is actually in Nigeria. And now it is in Mozambique today. I will just take a short break. And then I will come back with more information with my analysis on this whole story of Mozambique. And how does it filter in with our high unemployment in South Africa.
The champ is here! 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 The champ.
Look, I'm exhausted. Had it all figured out and I lost it. They say that's the cost, but it just feels like a lot. Stop, are you going or not? I miss certainty. Miss the 9 to 5s, knowing exactly where I need to be and why I'm not built for this. Progress moves in slow motion. They're out making money and getting promotions, saying all the right things, pulling all the right levers, while I sit here, write my future self love letters. Who's winning? Is this the end or beginning? 'Cause I'm starting to feel like reality's slipping, and bank accounts, they aren't very forgiving, and life on edge feels like falling, not living. If effort brings victory, what am I missing? Nothing good comes easy. When we have to, we push through, not knowing completely. You're here because you're made for this next level, taking these places that most people won't. Start embracing it. Who cares what they do? They're not you. You'll go through more now than you think you're supposed to, but that shows you can cope with the highs and the lows, because you rose to be more. Could have run away, could have avoided the thorns, could have been comfortable. Blood, sweat, and tears, they're expendable. No more pretending, man, build something memorable. Don't drink from their cup or by stories they tell, because when all their time's up, you'll have dug your own well. You did it. Use lifelines, you're topped off for a lifetime. So drop all those one-liners, we'll get them next time. No, this time is your time, and whatever you decide will end up being real life. No stop signs, just storylines. This whole thing is a misunderstanding, a miscalculation. Jumped and missed the landing. I'm mystified, I can waste so much time. These ovations are strictly imagination, not standing. So much for planning, guess fate left without me. Those failure statistics, yeah, they'll be about me. Was overly optimistic, forgot the logistics. Guess we all learn sometime, don't we? Good is not good enough. No, how long do I stay down before I let go? I buried my pride and took it inside, but never enough. It takes a toll, it gets old getting told you've got miles of road left to go. You're alone with this future unknown. Just go home. Just go home, it's safe there. Yeah, I'll find some embrace there. Look, it's time to admit defeat, a humble retreat. Check the box and complete to my core. Intrinsically, it's not for me, I can't do this. I knew this is how it would be. No fame, no fortune, no names on marquees, just running in place every day on repeat. This is the world I want to see, where everything's taken with no guarantees. No, come on, man, pick your head up. Go back inside, half a life's learning to get up. How can I make you see that you have everything you need, and what you want to be is never out of reach? Fate deceives sometimes, but destiny's calling, so can't let the phone ring. You know there's no all-knowing. Go level up, no letdowns. Let the world in, push fear out. It's self-belief, it starts right now. When hell freezes, you lay down. Until then, it's your town, it's your story, it's your crown. Live in the clouds, feet on the ground. They stand still, you run around. Go mesmerize, where they socialize. There's dollar signs to be maximized. If you live it right, regret nothing. Loud applause, the sweetest sound. And this moment won't happen again, and never becomes forever unless you choose to begin. So see greatness in each step, and power and progress. Your future, yeah, that's limitless, it's infinite. Don't forget you want this.
Getting your business funded is a lengthy process with the banks, and it can take weeks before getting an answer. ProfitFX works with the best in the finance industry to bring you an unrivaled business funding solution for South African businesses. Our funding partners have funded millions in the last year in support of growing your business and our economy. Get in touch with your talk show host to request more information. A trade history of 3 years or more and an annual turnover of 1 million rand or more is required. Terms and conditions apply.
Be the kind of trader who sees the big picture. The world is changing around you. Global threats push gold, the safe haven asset, to higher prices each and every day. Now's your chance to start trading gold. Just go to capex.com and register to get up to a $5,000 bonus on your first deposit. Simply use GOLD5000 as a promo code and you're good to go. Capex.com proudly welcomes you to the next level trading experience. Register now and start taking full advantage of the new gold rush. Terms and conditions apply. Exposure to gold obtained via contracts for difference, which are leveraged products and incur a high level of risk. Capex.com is operated by JME Financial Services, Pty Ltd, an authorized financial services provider.
Welcome back to Bull Market Stock Show. This is your host Rian Hobson, and we're doing the unemployment rate of South Africa, which is an absolute disaster. It's an all-time high in South Africa at 30.8% currently. Well, estimations did have it on 33%, but it's slightly lower than that. But I think it's more to do with the discouraged workers that are currently on, and I think people are just totally giving up on South Africa and the South African economy, because it's very difficult to find work in South Africa, especially with the climate that we are under. With lockdown regulations, people with uncertainty to start a business because they're not sure when will it actually close. Businesses that actually are holding back on spending on more infrastructure or expanding their business because they are not sure what is actually going on in the country or when the lockdown will go on or continue again, because as we can see in the Western world, it's all over the show now, where record numbers of COVID are being recorded. Now, the death rates are actually quite calm, but people don't look at that, or the media, I would say, not the people. The media is more worried about the infection rates and not much worried about the death rate. For me personally, if I look at the data, it looks to me that the COVID is well under control even before with this vaccine. I honestly don't know why is there a vaccine. I honestly don't know. In South Africa, the success rate, if you have COVID, is 92%. In other parts of the world, it's 99%. So I don't know why is there a vaccine. I honestly don't know. But that is what the media push out, and obviously someone is going to benefit out of this nonsense. Now, with the story, what I was looking at yesterday, and I wanted to make it the show of today actually, but I'm still looking at the data, and it's actually very sketchy at this current level. But when it comes to the unemployment rate in South Africa, and you compare that to Libya, and you compare that to Mozambique, where ISIS is actually riddling the north of Mozambique, actually, and you look at Libya with the fall of Gaddafi, or General Muammar Gaddafi, and you look at the rise, I would say the rise, they call it the Arab Spring actually, of Egypt actually. I think it happened in 2010. That is where it happened, because I know that this is the time when we had the Soccer World Cup and everybody was in fear of what is going on in Africa, and everybody think the whole continent is one. So the Arab Spring went up in Egypt, where they actually removed, I think it was Mubarak, and then it's moved over to Libya, where they removed actually and killed actually Gaddafi. And now it's in Mozambique, and also there's in Kenya and Sudan. It's also all over the south. But this is now ISIS that is currently moving and riddle Africa, the continent. And the African Union is quiet regarding the story. But one thing that is actually very common in the story of Mozambique, Libya, and also in the Arab Spring, or also in Egypt, is that ISIS is looking for fertile ground. This is what I could pick up when I did. Look, as I said, I did not actually put all the data together, but this is what I have so far. But if I look at Mozambique and why they attacked the north, and obviously where the gas is, at first I thought that they wanted to take over the gas, the discovery of gas by Total, which is $60 billion of investments and everything that goes on there. Now, I thought they want to attack the gas plant in the north of Mozambique at the coast and control basically the infrastructure there, and obviously sell the gas for next to nothing. Obviously to make money, and also to buy arms and attack and all of those things, to strengthen their army. And that is now ISIS. But then I looked at the whole thing, because Total and other engineering companies, or I would say oil drilling companies, are there now for the last 3 years. And there was a lot of promises that were made by the president of Mozambique, and also, I will not say much Total, but obviously, if you look at foreign investment, then obviously you would look for job creation. But nothing actually materialized until this day. And unemployment rate in Mozambique is extremely high. Very poor country. And especially in the north, where there's villages and all of those things. And these people, when you look at the bulletins or the news bulletins and the media of Mozambique, it actually pushed out the narrative that the gas discovery, which is a massive amount of gas that was discovered in the coast of Mozambique, that it will literally transform Mozambique. So obviously everybody have their hopes up that jobs will be created, infrastructure will be built and all of those things. But until this day, nothing. Libya, the same story. There was a document there of Muammar Gaddafi, free electricity, free housing for people that are married, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, that was not the case. The youth unemployment was extremely high in Libya, where it actually reached, at some point, it was reaching 55%. Egypt is exactly the same. And South Africans are not familiar with this. There's a lot of Egyptians in South Africa that are actually doing very terrible jobs in South Africa, because where else can they get jobs? Because that is not the reality in Egypt. Egypt's youth unemployment is extremely high. And that causes the Arab Spring in 2010, where it started in Egypt and then it moved to Libya. And also Kenya is the other part where the ISIS attack the mall and keep people hostage. And the same story is in Egypt and also in the DRC, where the youth are actually feeling that they are not part of the system. And ISIS exploit this story. Because look, if I look at the story of ISIS, they being bombed out of, there's also gas there, in Syria. They've been bombed out by the Russians. But the reason why the Russians are there, the Americans are there, the French is there, and all of them, because there's a strategic pipe that moves through Syria. And obviously it is the interest of Russia, it's in the interest of the United States, it's in the interest of the EU that they need to protect that pipe that goes through Syria. But if you look at the whole thing, there was an uprising of the youth in Syria against the government, and that is where the Russians are actually stood up. And who was there involved? ISIS. The same story applied in Iraq, where Iraq was, youth unemployment was high, they actually recruited the people, and then there was an attack, and now it's actually being sorted out because the United States is actually defending their interest. Now, Africa. So they were defeated in Iraq, they defeated in Syria, they moved to Africa where the ground is actually fertile. Libya, first part. Egypt first, Libya second. Now they are also in the DRC, which the journalists of the BBC actually said they actually are very strong in the DRC, in the middle of the DRC, and also some parts of Sudan. But it looks like they actually saw a better opportunity in Mozambique, where they came there with boat, saw that there's fertile ground there, because the youth is actually frustrated. Because every time there comes promises and more promises and more promises, but nothing actually materializes. Don't you think that South Africa is also on that same part? Because the thing is, I don't fear the attack of ISIS themselves in South Africa. But these guys are very good in spreading propaganda. Extremely good. And what they did in Mozambique, because there was two things that happens there. One is the government forces hitting and beating the people of the north of Mozambique. And obviously these guys are angry, they don't have money, they don't have work, they absolutely don't have any future. Only thing that they're benefiting from is tourists come there, give them $1 or so, but that's it. Yeah, you're talking about gas is discovered, jobs will be coming, but there's nothing. Since 2017, still nothing. And then the ISIS came. It's very easy because the youth is angry, they are boiling, and ISIS came there, told them about the propaganda, which happened in Nigeria as well with Boko Haram. I'm not saying they're from the same origin, but the style that they use by convincing the youth that the government doesn't care, and every time they come with promises, and then you just hear the stealing and the stealing and the stealing that goes on, that is where the youth is vulnerable, because they can't look after their families, or they want to become fathers, they want to become mothers, but the government is stealing and mismanaging the resources of Africa. And that makes the ground very fertile for groups as ISIS and Boko Haram. I'm not afraid of ISIS attacking South Africa, but by spreading propaganda to the youth might actually be the point where the youth of South Africa stand up against the South African government. Look, if Julius Malema of the EFF can do that so nicely, so you can't actually ignore the fact that ISIS can do that even better by taking up arms and actually fighting the government. Look, if you go through the story of Mozambique, because I was listening to videos of YouTube, I was listening to people from Al Jazeera, I was reading a document from one of the researchers that are there in Mozambique in 2019. And all of it comes with a anger of the people of Mozambique, especially when it comes to the youth. The story was exactly the same in Libya, where the youth was angry with Muammar Gaddafi by living a life where his people are suffering, and then people stand up against that. In Nigeria, it's exactly the same. That's why we have Boko Haram. And please, let me highlight that I'm not saying Boko Haram is of the same origin of ISIS. But it's easy to spread propaganda because they use the same strategy. It's easy to convince the youth that the government don't care. Because every time these people are promising the moon and the stars, but nothing materializes. Maybe you and I are more patriotic towards South Africa because you can listen to me, so surely you have money for data. And surely I have money because I can sit here and having a podcast. So we can maybe be very hard for us to be convinced. But you must put your foot into those young men, and especially those young men that see absolutely no hope, that never had one single job, and he's already 25 years of age. He's still sitting at home where his mother is telling him he's good for nothing. He still needs to ask his mother for bread money. He still needs to go and beg his cousins or so for money. He's still sitting at crowds where his friends come and visit him to buy him a beer because he can't do it. He can't date women because he is worth nothing. And look, I'm not saying women are gold diggers or anything or like that. But the problem is you need to have money to start a house. You need to have money to feed your family. And as men, we feel quickly demoralized, and that is the breeding ground of ISIS. The South African youth, the youth unemployment sit now, currently, at 61%. If you look at it discouraged, I can say it sit easily, it can sit at about 80%. That is the breeding ground for ISIS. That is what I can pick up in Mozambique, in Libya, in Kenya, and also in the DRC. Because obviously, he can't see any way out of this country, or out of his country, by lifting up arms. Because that is what I saw in Mozambique. Because it is own people in Mozambique that fight the government, who is now part of ISIS. They are attacking banks. They are attacking petrol stations. They are attacking post office. They beheading people actually currently in Mozambique. And this is actually going on since 2017. But the media is talking all sorts of nonsense of COVID with the invisible enemy. And we have actually a visible enemy in South Africa, and that is the youth unemployment. I'm not saying the youth is our enemy, but I'm saying the youth unemployment is the enemy of this country. And we will see that very soon. Because if it can happen in Mozambique, where they can spread so quickly propaganda, and as I said now, put yourself into a young man's foot that is at the age of 25 or even 30. Never worked in his whole entire life. Don't know what it is to have his own money. Nothing. And you tell me he's not discouraged. Believe me, it takes small bits of information for him to stand up. Because if Julius Malema can push so much propaganda out about land and so many youth is behind him, just imagine if ISIS can have about 2 million youth. Just imagine that. 2 million youth. It will be war. This is extremely dangerous. And believe me, these guys of ISIS are just recruiting the youth because they are angry for all these demagogues that literally promise people the moon and the stars and deliver absolutely nothing. These guys are living the best lives on the expense of actually the youth. Believe me, this is one dangerous game that South Africa must learn from Mozambique, what is currently going on. If they don't do something about the story in South Africa about the youth unemployment, we will face the same might of what Mozambique is facing today, because these guys are actually losing the war. Mozambique is actually currently losing the war in Mozambique, and they're moving south. If we don't put the brakes on the youth unemployment in this country by opening up this economy, believe me, we will face one hell of an enemy in South Africa, and it will be our own people that's standing up against government, and it will be our own people who's chasing after us. You and I, who's listening to this. We must be very, very careful when it comes to youth unemployment. I will leave it here for today. I'm definitely doing some more research on this Mozambique story, because it is actually a scary story for South Africa. And I'm very, very angry why the media is not pushing the story out of Mozambique, because it is a threat for South Africa's sovereignty. That's it from my side today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show, and I will see you guys again tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Bye-bye.
The champ is here!